Okay, quick look through Monday's end of day closing screens. I'll try my best to keep my voice up, but I'm trying not to cough at the same time because the pain is a little bit intense. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly buzz through the markets and get through the screens as swiftly as I can, and hopefully it goes smoother than I think it might go. Cheers again for all the messages. I know a few of you have reached out before who've had the same or virtually similar operation to what I've had. So cheers all. Let's buzz through these first, through the markets. Bit of a nothing day out there. Oh, it's actually down a bit on the transports today. Transports still in pullback here. Dow Jones still in a pullback. You know, we've had a 5-day bounce, but you know, I think we're back in filling in an extremely orderly fashion. Portfolio pinned up there at all-time highs on a weekly basis, and want to see that relative strength in the portfolio as the market does this first digestion from new highs. Not saying it has to do this, but it really wouldn't surprise me if it did, as we always say. It will visit mean trend in the future, time or price. It will do at some point. Here we go, the visual. DAX still sideways on the DAX. FTSE 100, 250. Still, we're still in that little pullback. I think it's worth watching those cyclical stocks and seeing how they're acting as a group. If the groups are stepping up, we're starting to see construction sort of stocks as well, aren't we? So just starting to sort of group up together and get ready. So we're in a couple of good trending ones already, aren't we? So we will see. Small caps, yeah, really obvious area and pullback area. Just put the old real, keep it real simple. You went into that zone, that would be very, very expected. I'll just say it again, sometimes we get my job here, one of my jobs here really is, people want to capture these big trends we capture, but they don't want to let this, they want to be clever with the stocks, and they want to sell into strength and buy back on pullbacks and do all this fancy business on the long-term trend. And the job is, I'm like a guy, I'm trying to think what animal I can use here. You're herding a duck. You've got a paddle in your left hand and a paddle in your right hand, and you're just trying to keep the guy on the trend. You know what I mean? Keep the duck in the line, going in the line. So you're patting it from this side and you're patting it from that side, and trying not to let it. Basically, what doing this a long time, and the long-term investors out there all think that we're trading on 5-minute charts, and they all think that they're doing it right. But let's face it, 90% of people, what they're doing is that they're selling a 15-20% up move, and then they're sitting on the sidelines. The high cash, I've got lots of cash at the moment, but what they tend to do is be fully invested right through a full-on market rug pull, not a pullback. Pullbacks, don't hurt you. You decide how much they're going to hurt you, and you can't do anything about the first 10%. It's impossible. Any risk management is not. It's not going to save you from the first 10%. It's going to save you from the irrecoverable gains. The 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 bigger stuff. So everyone's doing the same thing. Yes, sold MTL into strength. I'm a hero for 5 days kind of stuff, and then 100% later, 200% later, these guys don't hold MTL anymore. You know what I mean? So you've got to choose your lane. It's real simple. Choose your lane. Put your stock in that lane, and stop trying to be so clever. Do you want to make money, or do you want to be a hero for 5 minutes? Those who get what we do here, they do it to make money. That's why they stay. They're not playing around, sort of trying to, the game. My research says this, so this stock should do this, and yeah, but I'm right 90%. Oh, come on, we're not here for any of that business. We're just here to compound an account, and where it's the tails what really move the portfolio. And you look at some of the stocks what are running for us. That's why we don't need to be holding 15 of the best stocks. We just need to hold 3 or 4 of them to really do well. So plenty of cash to deploy on new setups as well. But the trick is, not getting too clever and letting these things become trends. Those who have the patience to you can do your fancy stuff on the shorter term trends, but the longer term trends, it's always going to be what moves the needle. Especially in UK stocks, I will say. Especially because we just don't have the amount of stocks that you could trade anything. Duck herding. Codeine talking, Jase. Duck herding, yeah. I think I dreamt it when they were waking me up. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about 4 o'clock this morning. Coming into this market is so in a good spot. It doesn't mean it's not going down another 10%. It really doesn't. But it's so in a good spot. We've seen it so many times before. The pullback after the first push through highs is the one you really got to take notice of and be confident in, getting on board. These. Yeah, a bit of dollar strength again today. Bit of weakness in the metals. I had a delivery of the liquid morphine today, so don't listen to me in the mornings, especially. Right, let's just bust through these. Could do with it cooling down a bit. It's very warm. Herding cats is probably the right phrase, isn't it, Mike? But we go for camel racing here. So, we've talked about this one, top right hand side. You know, if you see a base here and it starts to become orderly, and then you look at the volume of the makeup of that base, and it's built on volume, and it's just pulling back and on lighter volume, and that, you know, it's getting built by the players. You know, this is a expected to post growth stock. So, and the other scenario is it just breaks out, and then you just look for a pullback entry if it's one what you want to take a swing at. But I expect it's got some debt, this thing. You'll have to have a look. Let's keep buzzing through. Try to avoid the ones that are loaded in debt. Oh, just 1 second. Oh no. It's just my vinyl screener. Yeah, I mean, you know, when we bought this thing, you've got to remember what it looked like. I got involved here and here. I know some of you got involved here and added here, and you've got a pretty good bracket already. This would have been a really loose one. We did talk about it at the time being a really loose base. Wait, you know, that's what we want to see. It looks like a zone of interest above a stage one, doesn't it? But that is basically loose base in action, that first line in the sand there. But, you know, this, let's try and line it up a bit. You know, this thing, it's up, must be up close on 65% for anyone who got involved here. And with the add in play as well. And obviously this one just flew out of the gates here. It might be an add point here. And, you know, I can buy this straight with a correct stop. I can buy, you know, if I miss my ad, I can buy it here, put an alarm there, whatever. Wait for an opening range break or something. I can do it here. You know, this probe down into this level. You can get a bit clever on that if you wanted to, or you could just bang an order in where you wanted to get on board. But all the same, that's a good winning position. It's, you know, it's not exactly up much in percent, but if this thing goes on to be a nice trending stock, you know, you can get all prediction and say, oh, it won't pass it. You know, you don't know where they're gonna go, but you can just keep trailing and just letting them run. And if the risk stops too much for you, just bring it into the line a little bit. You know, do what you have to do. But yeah, I mean, I haven't adjusted. You know, I wouldn't adjust that one yet. I'm too much of a stubborn trend follower. This, you know, I don't have any of this, but I know some of you here was because it was such a nice base, and it came all the way back in, right close to the bottom of the base, and obviously you couldn't put your stop, you know, tight there. It wouldn't make sense. You might as well just give the money to charity if you want to be in for a trend and strangle it. But and it's going off on its journey, you know. Now it's expected to return to growth. Financial food producer. orderly stocks will give you less hassle. MKA, you know, it was a laggard, wasn't it, in space, but you know, it's working. For those who were a bit later to the metal stocks. Fresh Nillo. Yeah, a bit of a wild pullback there, but still, you know, get off the 5 minute chart. You're still holding that. If you're on the 5 minute chart, you probably messed it up. THX, you know, breakout, first pullback, higher high. It's, you know, it's on its journey. It's doing what it should be doing, doing what you want it to do. Trending stock. TPFG, hard to argue with that, isn't it? Screaming, you know, in that space. Try finding, you know, that was the one what was screaming on the GTRS. It got the orderly price action. You know, it went to sleep for a while, didn't it? And did this big, long-winded pullback. Then we got a base with what we call base with supply, really defined. Bang, off you on its journey again. This CEG, if I'd had more cash at the time, maybe I'd have, you know, put a position on it. But I know some of you are riding it. You're absolutely killing it because it's traded so orderly. A little bit reverse vol here, but you know, trail point here. When the time route, didn't it? Traded sideways to mean trend, back to highs. You know, you shouldn't have gone back below there. Came back into mean trend, new highs, and now obviously mean trend. Traded above new highs somewhere in this area anyway, and that's, you know, and now it's off on its journey again. This thing is, you know, it was I can't remember what it was, but I'll put it in for you. This was just a super orderly one, but you know, the fun, it ain't lighting up any cylinders, but at least it, you know, debt wasn't a problem by the looks of it, and it's working, you know. That's the sort of for every 10 positions, you know, 1 in 10. Try not to be trading too many of those. Different market environment will kick your ass repeatedly on stocks what have debt and all the rest of it, losing money, whatever. Right, into the swing points. In order of sector, we've got a few today. Let's get through these investment trusts. Jupiter. You know, I haven't traded Jupiter in well over a decade. Traded it back here somewhere on this run. It was a nothing trade. I remember some of the other ones being really orderly trends, and just think a couple of the FTSE 100 ones. Jupiter was just you get in those 250 financials, and they tend to sort of very choppy, subpar trending products. fly through these, and then I'll just come at it from the GTRS. Yeah. I think we said, you know, if you plan it, it's going to be a base. If it carries on, happy days, isn't it? But I'll just punch this one in for you as well. You know, it's gone past that slingshot in growth, hasn't it? It didn't do much when it had it, did it? That's sometimes the case. Phil tonic, just a normal pullback so far there. Some here are killing it in that one. We got here. Right. That's a new one. This development resource. Right, I'll have a quick look on the end of the day. And then I'll call that practice session. We'll try and get better every day. Recovering from what I've got, you know, I'm dealing with at the moment. It's going to be a little bit like trend following, I think. It's going to be a little bit of up and down to it. Yeah, TH. Nothing wrong with that one, is there? KGH, BT, DAR, YNGA, YNGA. And let me just quickly look at last night's as well, Young's Brewery. So I'm just going to punch this one in for you. YNGA. Let me just look at yesterday's. I say yesterday's, but you know what I mean, Fridays. What was in the ALTN? And PRO, ProCook. You know, stick it on the wall. Print it out, stick it on the wall. PROC. ProCook. Let's just punch this one in and have a look at it. Ident multiple, this one shows. It was an IPO, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. It's usually the case, isn't it, as well? Typical IPO, though, you know. Drift from the open. And then basically at some point they'll start, if they survive at some point, start to get ready for the first run. But better to wait to see the footprint, you know? Yeah, so I'll leave it there. Let me know if I've forgotten something. And hopefully it's loud enough. I can drop the microphone down in front of me, actually. If it's a bit quiet, I'll have a listen later. If it's a bit quiet, I'll drop it down for tomorrow. Okay. Cheers all.